Afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to the latest video on Back of the Net. Following the 2-2 draw at foggy, freezing New York Stadium, we're back to more comfortable surroundings at Dean Court. The opponents this time are Preston North End. Can we get back to winning ways? Well, let's discuss that with my latest guest and find out a little bit more about their team. Today, I welcome Jack Goodwin, the lead writer for Football Accumulators and head of sport at Hospital Radio. Afternoon, Jack. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, Craig. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. So, firstly, you are a journalist and you've been lucky enough, I understand, to get back into Deepdale. What's been your experience during this unprecedented time?
Well, I think it's fair to say that it's been pretty strange. Being able to commentate on the games and now, especially that at Deepdale, we've put in crowd noise and 18 speakers around the stadium. It's definitely a weird scenario because I'm used to commentating at the game and having someone just down below me, shouting abuse at the players, or one having a go at him for shouting abuse. So, yeah, it's definitely different, and I feel very lucky and privileged to be able to go to football games. But they desperately need football fans to be back. There's no way of putting it. Easy way of putting it, that we just need football fans back. All teams need it. I assume you're going to have football fans back. Is it next week you're going to have them back?
Yeah, so against Huddersfield, we'll be able to have 1,000 fans in because due to the SGSA, we have to do like a test run. It's something that I explored as well, see whether or not there would be an option to have an under-21s game, for example, as a test run, but it looks unlikely. So it looks like 1,000 fans for the Huddersfield game and then 2,000 thereafter. How it's going to pan out, I'm really not sure at all.
Yeah, for me, being able to go to the games, it's just not the same. And even watching my team as a Preston North End fan, I just can't enjoy it as much as I would normally. I don't know what that is. I think it's mainly that it's just because I get annoyed half the time when I'm at the ground when fans are there. Some of the negative opinions that come out, some of them just annoy me. But to be fair, with what's going on at the moment, with no fans in, it's just not the same. But at least we're getting football played, and at least we're being able to watch it on iFollow, which I know gets a lot of stick, but I think it's a decent stream. You can't expect it to be Sky quality, can you?
Yeah, and to be fair, the iFollow games that we've had so far have been pretty good, to be fair. The quality's been okay. There has been a couple of issues with some of the sound, but we can't grumble. At least we're able to see the games and follow the team.
At least you're seeing your team win some games as well. Bloody hell.
Yeah. Well, yesterday was a little bit of a different scenario, as I'll mention a little bit later on. But looking at your current form at the moment, you have beaten the likes of Brentford and Reading by a decent margin as well. I think it was 4-2 against Brentford and 3-0 against Reading. But there's also been in the mix a loss to Rotherham. You've been beaten on Saturday 4-1 by Watford. What's gone right and wrong so far this season?
Well, I think it's too simple to say that we've just been really poor at home and we've been good away, because at one point we were bottom of the home table, which I think we still are, and at one point we were top of the away table. But I think it's too simple to say that. I think it's the calibre of teams we've come up against and the style of play that they play, especially at home. I mean, we've played the likes of Birmingham, Sheffield Wednesday, Stoke, Millwall, and you know yourself, these are all teams that are quite aggressive, get in your face sort of teams. And if they get the first goal, they will sit back and invite us to have the ball. And throughout Alex Neil's 3.5 years with North End, we've not been brilliant on the ball. We're a team that are better in transition, that hit teams on their counter-attack, and we perform better against your likes of Reading and Brentford, who like to keep hold of the ball, and then we just hit them by surprise when we wait for them to make a mistake, hit them by surprise, hit them on the counter-attack, and hopefully we put it away. But I mean, it's a championship, isn't it? It's the beauty of the league. You can go and beat Brentford, who I think is one of the best teams. If not, I thought they were the best team in the league last year. I thought they were unlucky not to go up. But on the other hand, you could go to Rotherham, who probably, without offending them, they probably will go down or will be in the relegation scrap, but lose comfortably to them. So yeah, it's just the championship, isn't it?
Do tell us a little bit more, Jack, about the Preston side.
So I think probably what you've seen with Rotherham yesterday, you're probably going to expect something similar from us. We are depleted with a lot of injuries at the moment. Yesterday we played without a fullback, professional fullback in the squad. We had a youngster, Lewis Colton, that made the substitute bench, which meant that we had to move to a 3-5-2 system, which put Barkhazen and Scott Sinclair both out wide as wing-backs, which I'm sure you know they're more attacking players. So especially when they're going up against Ismail Assar, who's one of the best players in the league, you know, it's going to be difficult for them. But so obviously Donnell Fisher's out for 3 games, so he's got 2 games left to serve of that. Alan Brown, I think, should be back because he was only serving a 1-match ban. And obviously he's not even a fullback, but he can fill in there quite comfortably at right back. But no, I think like a lot of North End fans would have expected us to do really what we've done in the last 5 years. We've done in the league, just be in that chasing pack. And it's too early to say that we're going to be in a relegation battle, and it's too early to say that we won't be in that chasing pack, because I think 14 games in, yes, you've played over a quarter there, but you know, I've been speaking to some fans and they're saying, oh, but we're literally 2 losses off being in the relegation zone, but we're 2 wins off being 7th in the league. So, you know, it's so close, isn't it? It's so soon, and it just sums up modern day football fan that, you know, if you're 19th in the league at this stage of the season, everyone wants a manager out. But then if you're top of the league at this stage of the season, like we were last year, I think it was about November last year, we went top of the league after beating Charlton. Everyone thought he was brilliant, but then you go downwards, which I expect someone like Reading will probably do this year. So I've gone on a bit of a tangent here, but I just think I just think it's so soon to judge managers and players after 14 games to think, yes, you're going to be in this category and you're going to be in this category. Obviously, if you're top of the league at the moment and you're doing very well like yourself, you probably will be in the promotion race. And if you're Derby, who have got one of the lowest points tally in recent memory at this stage of the season, they probably will be in a relegation battle. But for us that are in the mid-table, there's a cluster of teams, and if you're 6-7 points off with 2-3 months left, you've got a chance to get in the playoffs in this league.
Yeah, and anybody can spring a surprise as well, Jack, can't they? Because it is so tight. You've got, Sheffield Wednesday and Derby, who, to be fair, Sheffield Wednesday would be a little bit higher if they hadn't had that points deduction. But everybody else is so close together. There's nobody really running away with the league so far this season. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. How do you think Alex Neil will set up against us tomorrow?
It's a difficult one because it depends on what injuries we've been having. Because, we went with quite a lot of optimism to that game midweek against Blackburn Rovers. And then it turned out that we had about 7 extra players that got injured during the midweek training or whatever it was. So it depends on who's available. But throughout his time, he's favoured a 4-2-3-1 formation. But as of late, we've been having to switch to 3-5-2. He usually does sometimes likes to match up the opposition. But not all the time, so it's completely unpredictable. Have you been playing a mixture of formations as well, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. So we've had the 4-4-2 that did come out. We've also played with 3 at the back, and then you had Stacey and Rico either side, and then pushing forwards, you had, and then Danjuma and Brooks on the wing. So it was a very, very fluid formation. sometimes it works against some teams. Other teams, it doesn't so much. And to be fair, Jason has mixed around with that a little bit this season. I haven't really got a favoured option so far, but I think his hands yesterday especially was forced through a couple of injuries to some key players. So I know you did want to mention a little bit more about our team. So Danjuma hopefully should be back. He has got a light hamstring. It was a little bit too soon for him against Rotherham, but should be back. And Lewis,
don't say that. Don't say that. He's a brilliant player. I don't want him to be back.
Lewis Cook had an infected leg wound. Again, he should be okay for Tuesday. Stacey won't be though. That has actually been announced because he had knee injury that was inflicted in the Reading game. He's now going to be out for 8 weeks. And we did have Billings Smith. Nothing really was talked about at the time about it. They had to go into isolation because King actually tested positive for COVID. So we did have that, but we don't expect King to be in the side because of his performance against Sheffield Wednesday. Billings Smith probably be on the bench. Well, Smithy will probably play. Billing probably be on the bench. He did play yesterday. But if Lewis Cook's available, he'll come straight back in. Of course, it is a rigorous schedule as we're feeling as well at the moment, especially over Christmas with 8 games in December. Do you feel you have the quality throughout and the depth of squad to be able to manage that?
A lot of it depends on luck and what injuries you pick up and suspensions you pick up, because I think we've got one of the smallest squads in the league. We've only bought 2 players in the last 18 months, 1 player in this summer transfer window. So, yeah, there is the general feeling that the squad's going stale and that we haven't given it the bit of boost with the depth that is really needed. I know yesterday we lined up with only, I think it was 3 professional outfielders on the bench. But, I mean, you can't complain too much. I mean, I think it was Norwich City that only had Zimmerman on the bench and everyone else was like 17. So, everyone's being dealt the same hand of cards. So I think if you're talking quality of players with Preston North End, I think the positive that I take out from the squad is that pretty much the starter in every position, if you take them out and put in the sub, I don't think there's much difference between them. Yes, they're slightly better and they've got better qualities. But for example, if you take out Ben Pearson, you put in Ryan Ledson, and they're different players, but they're both really good players, and even the likes of Jordan Storey, who came under a bit of criticism last night, yesterday. He's a decent player. I mean, you take out Ben Davis, who, yes, probably is going to get a move to the Premier League or a top Championship club, probably yourselves. But you throw in Jordan Storey or Paul Huntington, they'll give their all, and the decent players. I mean, that's probably the positive I can take out of it, because, for example, if you've got Danjuma or Lewis Cook or Brooks missing, I don't know who you think your key players are, but you'd feel like that's it's a bigger miss than if we had our star players out.
Yeah, and to be fair, we did miss Danjuma yesterday. And to be fair, Stanislas had a very, very good game. He can certainly cover, but Lewis Cook ran the game, especially against Forest. He was very, very good. So yeah, we need, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have those 2 players back, and it will make us a lot stronger. At the moment, Jack, you sit 18th at the moment with 16 points from 14 games. A lot of people, myself included, would have expected you to be a little bit higher. I know it's very tight at the moment in the league table. What was the expectation at the start of the season, Preston?
I think it was just to be in that chasing pack, because that's really what we've been in every time since we've been. It's with Grayson, we finished 11th twice. Then under Neil, we finished 7th, 14th, and and 9th, and even in that 14th, we had a faint hope of the playoffs. So, and there's no ruling that out. Like I said, I just think, I think we are due a season where we probably should finish where realistically, with the amount of money we put in, I mean, we haven't broken our transfer record since 2001. So it says something about the lack of ambition. And I'm not going to sit here and criticise the owner because, you know, it's a business. And for me, you know, I don't think he's just going to throw 60 million at us without having a proper plan at it. And if he hasn't got that plan and doesn't think it's sustainable enough, then fair enough. But yeah, I think obviously we're 18th, but we're only 3 points off 12th, and a win against your lot, which it looks very unlikely. But if it does happen, you know, we could be finding ourselves in the top half of the table. So, yeah, it's just one of those. I don't think we're going to be in a relegation battle. I think we've got too good of a manager, who sometimes isn't rated enough by our own fans to be in a relegation battle, because I think he's a very good gaffer.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, actually, with regards to Alex Neil. He's been in charge for quite some time. Joined in 2017, if I'm correct in thinking.
Yeah.
And do the Preston fans feel that he's made progress?
That's a really difficult question, actually, because as I mentioned, under Simon Grayson, we stabilised ourselves to our own surprise as well, because we thought we'd be in a relegation battle. And I think Neil came in and definitely played more on the front foot in his first couple of years. Yeah. I think North End fans are a bit more frustrated now that we're sitting off. I mean, Blackburn Rovers was the perfect example of it. We just sat off the whole of the first half, and then they got the goal right before half time where you got the sending off, and that was the game done, basically. But we certainly play better football. It's just, if you talk about progress, we finished pretty much in the same place as we have under Simon Grayson. But I think it's, can you realistically expect any other manager to come in and do better? Maybe one could go the step further and finish 6th, but I doubt we'd win the playoffs, because we just do not have the funds. We don't have the financial fair play falling into our hands to expect promotion. I know teams have come up from League One and done it before, Southampton and Norwich, but even then it's different to what it is now. The gap between us and your lot in terms of the finances, or Wickham and your lot, it's huge. Like, it's polarising.
Well, I saw a Rotherham fan yesterday and comparing the amount of money that we have spent. Of course, being in the Premier League, you expect that, but also the amount of money that Rotherham spent. It is, like you say, completely polarising. And there's even teams in the Championship that have fell foul of financial fair play rules because they have overspent. And yeah, it's a very, very big gap. But then again, it is a Championship. Teams can go anywhere and get a result. And like Rotherham showed on Saturday, they put up a really good fight. They did get in our faces. Do you expect Preston to be exactly the same, or do you expect them to play some good football? Because from what I've seen so far, Preston do play some decent football, but they have got that side where if they need to play ugly, they can.
Yeah, we've got a tendency to play a couple of game styles, which I don't think is a bad thing. I mean, from what I've seen from your lot, you especially this season, I think the Bournemouth Coventry game sticks out in my head. That you press really high up the pitch. You've got everyone knows what they're doing, and you also look pretty good on the ball. So I think Neil might be looking at it and seeing that we might have to play ugly, because if we play out from the back, and we're not Pep Guardiola sort of team in terms of playing out from the back. We need to make sure that we don't make mistakes, because any mistake is probably going to get punished by you. So we've got to be careful with what we do. So yeah, we might revert to a more ugly style of play, and I think it might be the case of trying to take it to 0-0 or 1-1 at half time, and then hitting you in the second half like we did against Brentford and like we did against Reading, because all 7 of those goals came in the second half when the opposition's legs were tiring. So, yeah, I think, to be fair, I could just roll the dice and see what style of play we play. And that's not a criticism of him. It's just that, he likes to change it up, and most of the time he backs that up in his press conferences for legitimate reasons. So we'll see.
Of course, mid-season as well, there's been the change from 3 to 5 substitutions. Do you feel that because from what you've said about legs tiring, especially in that Reading game and before that as well, if teams are tiring, do you feel that 5 substitution rule will favour those sides that do have that strength in depth, who can bring on a player?
Probably, yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons the Premier League hasn't voted for it. I know there's been a lot of furore between Chris Wilder and Jurgen Klopp yesterday and over the past couple of weeks. I don't want to sit here and make excuses, though, because, I mean, top 3 at the moment is yourself, Norwich and Watford, who are the 3 teams that have just come down. So, you certainly have the best squad depth in the league, but it's about how you reduce those injuries. Like I mentioned, Norwich only had Christoph Zinnemann on the bench yesterday. The rest of the players were all just youngsters. So it's about how you keep your players, how you retain them, how you keep them healthy and fit. So, yeah, I don't think you can sit here and make too many excuses, because, you don't just build a team of 11 men. You build a whole squad. And if they're in your squad, they should be good enough to trust. So the only worry is when you bring in youngsters who the manager doesn't think's ready because they've not even been offered a professional contract yet. But sometimes, them coming in with a bit of passion and something different to what the players are, and they're seeing it as like their biggest game of their lifetime. Sometimes that does work, but we don't usually play our youngsters, which you can't blame the manager for doing.
How do you think it's going to go, Jack?
It could go many, many ways. I'm hoping it goes the way, I think it was the last time we played you, when we beat you 3-2 with Simon Mackinock masterclass. So hopefully his little cousin, Emil Rees, can do the same, but probably not. No, I'll be positive and I'll go for a 2-2 draw. I can see us sitting back in it and you on the counter, and maybe we make a couple of changes. I know there's a couple of players like Daniel Johnson who fans are a bit disappointed with his performances, considering he was the player of our season last year, and with him and I think we've got 9 others out of contract in the summer, it's a case of you don't want to play too many of them because, in the back of their mind, they might be thinking, I don't want to pick up a long-term injury. And I'm not saying that they won't give their all, because they will, but it's always in the back of their mind. I don't know if you watched the Tottenham documentary with Jose said it about Christian Eriksen. So, it's one of them. But I think if we make a couple of changes, play the likes of Tom Bayliss, maybe put in Paul Gallagher, so a mixture of youth and experience, I think we might just come away with a point. But that's me being very, very optimistic.
Yeah. Well, many thanks for joining us on Back of the Net today, Jack. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and all the very best with Football Accumulators and Hospital Radio as well, mate.
Thank you very much. Cheers. I've enjoyed it.
Mate. All the best. Well, thank you for joining us again on Back of the Net for this opposition preview. Shortly after the Preston game, we will have our normal free-for-alls. Also, TJ's player ratings will be back with another fan. So until next time, up the cherries. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.